Hey everyone, thank you for attending today's webinar. Well, we're happy that you are joining us for what we think you'll find to be an informative and interesting presentation on becoming a paralegal. Before we begin, just wanted to note that this session is being recorded and it will be sent to all participants after the session, so you will get a copy of this webinar. Any questions that you have, please feel free to enter it into the chat box. We'll be happy to answer any and all questions throughout the webinar, so definitely don't hesitate to ask if there's anything we can help you with. So before we get started, just want to talk about the want to talk about who's presenting. We have with us today Joseph Spada. He's the program director for the Paralegal Certificate Program at BU. He has, not only does he oversee our program, he actually teaches several components within the program, and he does have 20 years experience as a federal attorney, as well as he's a member of the Massachusetts Bar, as well as the U.S. District Court, the District of Massachusetts, and the First Circuit Court of Appeals. And my name is Joshua Snow. I also have several years of experience in academic advising and admissions, and basically wanted to talk to you about the agenda for today's webinar. So we're going to cover a couple different things. We're going to talk about why Boston University. We'll go over what is a paralegal, what do they do. We'll hopefully take a look at the field as it stands today, the paralegal field, as well as give you an overview of our program, and then touch a little bit further in depth on the curriculum. And then finally, we'll end out dates and registration as far as when the next start's going to be. And then at the end, if there's time, we'll have a little opportunity for a Q&A. So again, don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat box as they come, but there will be time at the end if you have any remaining questions. So thank you again for attending this afternoon. And with that, I will go ahead and turn our presentation over to Mr. Spada. Oh, Joe, you're muted. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Better?
Yes, better. Thank you.
Then you didn't hear me swear when you said that. First bit of legal advice I have for you guys is your LinkedIn pictures should always match what your present look is. So it just came to me when I saw the shorter hair in the slide before this, and my hair is longer now. That's what not to do on LinkedIn. Free advice. So first, let's start with why Boston University, all right? We're really proud of the program we have here at Boston University. I developed it. I worked on it with, input from a directing board comprised of other attorneys, paralegals, and this is the program we came up with. One of the things I think it is unique about our program as compared to other programs out there is that the curriculum is completely developed and owned by BU faculty. So every instructor you have and every teaching assistant you have, the teaching assistants are paralegals, working paralegals, have an expertise in their field, all right, the given field that they're going to be instructing upon. So that's really interesting because a lot of other paralegal programs, I shouldn't say a lot, but a sizable minority of other paralegal programs are what's called private label, where one generic program has come in and they are private labeling it, selling it to other universities and colleges, and they just put their name on it. But it's a generic program that they didn't develop. Ours is our program. That's important for several reasons. There's a lot of research on what makes for a successful online learner, and what works for a successful online learner, as we have learned through our research and our distance education office, is that you need to not have it just be a course that reads text after text, page after page. You want to have some interactive videos in it. You want to have some live classrooms. You want to have discussion boards. You want to have recorded video. So we've done all of that, and that's what makes our program a little more dynamic than other programs. And I think you should know that going in, that this is our program. Another thing we're trying to give students an advantage, it's so much like every other field right now, is going to be centered around technologies. We give an entire module, 2-week period, to legal technologies. What do paralegals need to know? The softwares that are out there, how are they going to utilize these software? We let you use them. We get little copies for you. We put it in the course material. So you're going to be using a lot of the technologies that paralegals are using in everyday practice. I'm getting more of that into the technology section. The same with IRAC. I'm just pointing out the differences now here. When you learn to write as a paralegal will write, most paralegal programs are going to provide you with what's called case briefing, and case briefing is really important. You need to know that. But the step after writing a case brief is writing what's called an IRAC memorandum, and we will go over IRAC memorandums and why it's important for you as a paralegal to understand that. I mean, in essence, what they are is it's a methodology for critical thinking, and it has a bunch of buzzwords in it. And when a paralegal understands how to write in an IRAC analysis, it elevates his or her communication to a far more professional level, and attorneys are going to respond to that. Also, our program, and some programs have this too, because we want to know what our competitors are doing. We offer Westlaw Next as our database for online searching. So much research is happening online right now that you need an opportunity to really familiarize yourselves with these complex databases and how to do searches online, legal research online. So the Westlaw Next database is one of the main search engines in that area. Your tuition covers that, so there's no hidden costs in tuition. So you'll have a Westlaw Next database. Even though the research module is only 2 weeks, you'll have it for the entire 14-week program. Another thing that we offer is there's 7 modules, 2 weeks each, so that's where you get the 14 weeks. 7 modules, 7 subject matters. Each module will have what's called a live classroom. And live classrooms, actually, it's a little better than this platform right now, if I may. What's happening in the live classroom is you and your instructor are, communicating in real time, much the way we are right now. You have the option to speak, and I can hear you, and have your video on if you so choose. You don't have to. You can choose close your video off. But it really allows us to simulate an actual classroom experience. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you guys to ask questions like, I read, or I saw the video, or I participated in the discussion board, but I'm still having trouble with this issue. Can you clarify? Absolutely, we can clarify. A live classroom is a lot of fun. We get to know each other. And but one thing I want to say about the live classroom is because we wanted to keep the asynchronicity of our BU program, in other words, you can do it. You have to meet certain guidelines. So each module has to complete it within 2 weeks. But within that module, there's a lot of flexibility. You want to go on at 3 o'clock in the morning, do it. You want to come on at 7 o'clock in the morning, do it. But that's hard with the live classroom because that has, everyone has to sort of be there at the same time, except they don't, because every live classroom will be recorded. If you can't make the live classroom time, which is generally Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, it will be recorded, and you can just go to the software, Blackboard software, and watch the recording, so you're not missing anything. And if you have questions on the recording, things that were brought up in class, there's certainly opportunities for you to bring those up and ask your instructor directly. Another thing that sets us apart is that we do some career building tips. We believe teach them to fish, and you can eat fish the rest of your life. So we go over basic resume formatting. What's the standard practice for a resume, best practices for resume tips in the paralegal field. We're focusing mainly on entry-level and mid-level when we come to resumes. And we also talked about, we also will have a live classroom on LinkedIn and networking and the importance of that. It's not intimidating. It can be fun. It's an excellent source. And it's a good thing for everyone in the career market to know right now. So, a lot of you probably know it already. That's fine, but for those of you who don't, it's a nice review. And for those of you who do, it's, making sure you're up to date, current on all the latest LinkedIn. And finally, well, not quite finally, our reputation at Boston University is stellar. I'm really proud to be a part of this program and work at Boston University. We're not just nationally ranked, we're internationally ranked, and that's a big thing. We have actually, I'm presently running a program for people who signed up in January. We have a student from Australia. We've had students from Saudi Arabia, from Indonesia, and from Iraq. So we really have an international reputation that we're very proud of. And finally, the thing that sets Boston University apart is our cost. Our cost and our value. You're getting a lot compared to other programs. We are on the lower side of tuition costs, and it's something we work to maintain. You know, how can we keep it accessible to students? So I think if you compare, I know if you compare our program to other programs, which I hope you do, we're going to be on the lower side. But again, because of all the other things we offer, we think the value is very high there. Oh, and the last thing, I'm proud of this. We just this past December won the Lawyers Weekly, the Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly. It is regional to New England. It's the newspaper for attorneys and paralegals in the New England area. And there's a lot of schools in New England and a lot of paralegal programs, and we were voted the best paralegal program for 2017. So again, we're very proud of our program, and we think it offers you some distinct features that other programs don't offer. This is the rankings where BU ranks in the world, in the country, and some quotes from students who were pleased. So why pursue a career as a paralegal? All right. Paralegal jobs are everywhere. They're everywhere. There's business and, anywhere from the entertainment, media, all the way to transportation. All of these businesses are going to be affected by laws of some sort, whether it's, laws of how to do business governance or whatever is going to be affected. If you have a regulation that's going to be affecting your healthcare industry, you have to know and be able to research. So healthcare industries, media, hospitality, pharmaceuticals, they all are going to be governed by statutes and regulations. So consequently, everyone's going to have to know and have in their employ paralegals and attorneys. So they really are everywhere. In addition to which, there's some very career-specific areas like real estate and real estate closings and litigation. So you've got all the general business areas, but there's also areas of business particular to lawyers and paralegals. The job outlook is very good. Paralegal field growing faster than the national average, and is projected to grow 15% through 2026. So the outlook for the field in general is very solid. Some of you know what paralegals do and others don't. So I'm going to go through some basics. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Paralegals can work in three different areas mainly. They can work at corporations in counsel. They can work for the public sector, government, federal, state, municipalities. But most paralegals are probably working in law firms. All right, law firms kind of divide their staff into three areas: attorneys, legal assistants, support staff. In the legal assistant field, paralegals are at the top. All right, what makes paralegals valued in the law firms is that they what's called bill for their time. It's called billable hours. I don't know if you know that term or not, but roughly what billable hours means is that you're generating money for the firm. All right, every 15 minutes, every hour you work on a certain assignment, you're going to be billing that client for your time. Paralegals bill, it's all over the place, but $100, $145 an hour is generally what they bill, which does not mean that's what you get an hour. And attorneys bill for anywhere from $300 to $1,200 an hour, all right? So one of the reasons paralegals are good is because clients started getting upset with these high billable hours from attorneys, and they didn't want to pay these high billables, especially when it was work that, a paralegal could do. So clients are actually starting to ask for paralegals to work on matters because while it's still billable and while you're still generating income for the firm, you're doing it at a lesser hourly amount, and you're doing it in an amount that clients are more comfortable paying sometimes, So that's one of the reasons the paralegal field is growing so large. So let's talk money. You have a right to know. You should know. These are our basic from salary.com, Salary Wizard. So we pretty much broke it down to paralegal entry level. You can see on the slide, and you're going to get these slides emailed to you, I believe. $53,000 at the beginning, lower level, average 60. Height for an entry-level paralegal can go as high as 68,000. These aren't my figures. I will say, in working with students, especially in the Boston area, this seems to be on point. But I've also had students that say, you know, I just got a job for $30,000. I'm not going to take that. And I said, well, what are you comparing it to? What other job do you have? And they're like, well, I don't have an offer yet. I'm like, take it. Take it. Get that first job. That first job is going to be the most difficult job. Other than that, it's going to be a lot easier. So these are guides. They're the averages, but they're not guaranteed. But you can see that paralegals in and of themselves, it's a career. It's not a stepping stone to become an attorney. It can be. Many paralegals go on to become an attorney, but some are perfectly happy working their hours, doing their job. And you can see paralegal manager, 15 years experience can be as high as 132. I can tell you in New York it's a lot higher. I know paralegals making 165. But that's, you know, they have some management experience. They're managing other paralegals, and they've been at their place for 10 to 15 years. So this just gives you a nice idea of what the average salary range is. BU has been granting paralegal certificates since 1976. I started in 1995. At that time, it was ABA, American Bar Association, tracked program, which meant it was about a 2-year program, and at that time, it cost $20,000, and that was in 1990 money. It was generally part of an undergraduate program, which is why we did it there, and not part of it was like an undergraduate major, and not part of a certificate program as it is right now, although they did grant certificates. We started noticing at Boston University that our enrollments were going down from like 1995, 1996, 1997, and it was curious for us because that was at a time when paralegals were, demand was going up. So we did some research and we found out that there were these other intensive programs that were basically taking our market share. And we had to make a decision. Do we want to sort of go into the new trend, drop the ABA model? And we had to form a committee because everything at BU is done by committee. I was on that committee. One of the things we did is we talked to hiring partners at large firms, medium firms, small firms throughout New England. We were regional at that time because we weren't online, so we did focus on New England. And we basically found out they did not care, especially if you had your undergraduate degree. They did not care how long the program was, or they certainly didn't care if it was ABA approved or not ABA approved. Half the attorneys that have passed the bar are not members of the ABA. It's a political organization. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but we made a decision at Boston University that it wasn't necessary, and that's when we adopted this 12 or 14-week intensive program. What we did was we dropped a lot of the theory that was present in the program and really concentrated on just sort of nuts and bolts skill sets. How do we make this real for paralegals so that they have a skill set that they can start working the first day on a job? And that's what we did. So we make sure that whatever forms are going to be involved in certain areas, that you see the forms, you work with the forms, that you do the legal research, really focusing each module on what does a paralegal do, and let's have some run-throughs with the actual forms and the work in those given areas. And that's where we came up with the modules. In 2006, we put the program online. And as of 2017, we have been granting certificates for over 40 years. I'm looking at the time. I'm going to talk faster. Okay, so this is just a picture. If you haven't taken an online course before, this is our online class platform of Blackboard. This is what it looks like. If you notice, I don't know if you're seeing my mouse. If you notice on the gray left-hand bar, sort of the vertical menu bar, it starts with home page, assessments, announcements, discussion boards. This is how you're going to now. I just wanted you guys to see a picture of what the software will look like. If you click on discussion board, you're going to go into the different discussion boards, and you're going to talk with on a given topic that has been assigned. You're going to post your feelings on it, what you've learned from the materials, how that influences what you have to say. You'll read what other students have to say. Every discussion board has an Ask the Instructor, so if you have a question for me, And, you know, you can ask us one of two ways, all your instructors. You can ask on the instruction board, discussion board, ask the instructor, or you could also go right below it, internal messages, and send me a private message with your question. I mean, generally, I like to encourage students to ask if it's pertaining to the course materials on the discussion board, because if you have a question, other people have a question, and they'll learn from, you know, your question and my response. If it's a more private matter, internal messages, but really both are good, and it's up to you. Underneath that, I don't know if you can see live classroom. That's just basically you're going to click on that, and it's going to load you up into a Zoom classroom, and we're going to be able to talk to each other, see each other in real time. If you can't make that, as I said before, it'll be recorded and pasted in, and you'll hit right underneath that. It says live classroom recordings. So that's just, you know, a quick idea of what that platform looks like. So I want to talk quickly about what each module is and what we try to cover. All right, the first module is going to be legal research. You're going to have your Westlaw Next passwords. This is my opportunity. I will teach legal research, and it's my opportunity to really make sure all students are on sort of a level playing field. You guys, it's a wide demographic. You come in with different knowledges about American jurisprudence, how our legal system works. So I go over some basic information like, you know, there's 5 primary sources of law, 5 places where law is being generated, because you have to know where law is in order to know how to research it. You know, it's the Constitution, statutory law, case law, administrative law, and executive decisions. All right, so we go over those 5 primary sources of law and how law is made. We also go over the difference between federal jurisdiction and state jurisdiction. So if there's 5 primary sources of federal law, each state has 5 primary sources of law as well. So we go through this concept of jurisdiction. It's like, well, how do you know if federal law is going to govern, and how do you know if state law is going to govern? Do they ever both govern? Do they ever both conflict? Yes, they both govern, and yes, they both conflict. I mean, 2 examples. Well, one would be marijuana right now, with a lot of states legalizing for either medical or recreational, and the federal government has not okayed that. It's still, I believe it's still a felony. Judge Sessions having something to say about that. So how does that work? Those questions of jurisdiction and who prevails. Go through basically all that in a legal research module, in addition to which we go through the hierarchical structure of the courts, the trial courts, intermediate appellate, and final Supreme Courts, and really what is the role of each court. And you need to know that because different level courts have different level of precedential or persuasive value. So when you're researching and you're citing to something, you have to know, like, is it in your jurisdiction and what's the precedential value? Do you have to follow it, or is it just a suggestion? So we go over that in legal research. Legal writing, our next module. So each one of these modules is 2 weeks. Each one will be graded. In legal writing and reasoning, again, I had told you we're going to start with going through a case brief, and you're going to learn how to deconstruct a case brief, break it down into its component parts. Cases are written by judges in all the courts at every level. These judges publish their opinions, and they're published in what are called reporter series. We go over reporter series. And then you read this case, and you really break it down. What are the facts of the case? What's the question that the case asks? What's the answer that the case came up with? And how did the case get there? What's the analysis? What's the analysis that the case applied? All right? Now, when you're writing a case brief, I'm saying that you are not really providing any analysis. You are reporting on the judge's analysis. You're basically writing, you know, a quick synopsis of what the judge declared were the facts, what the judge declared was the question, what the judge's analysis was. All right? So you're reporting on what the judge did, and you're deconstructing it. When you write an IRAC analysis, you are identifying the issue. You are, through research you have done, identifying the rule. You're doing the application of fact to law, and you're coming up with a conclusion. So IRAC is basically a methodology for critical thinking that, as I said earlier, elevates your level of writing and professionalism in the office. The next module after those 2 for 2 weeks is going to be legal technologies. You're going to go through some basics. Like, I know most people know MS Excel, but you have to know it. All right, so we put it in for people who know it, someone already. We put it in a legal fact pattern with basically damages and how to go through a damages calculation and enter them in. So we make sure everyone has that basic knowledge. We also go through what's called cloud computing. So much is happening on the cloud right now. We all know that. But in a law firm, there's rules governing what can be put on a cloud and how it can be put on a cloud, because there's trade secrets, there's client confidentiality. So there's rules as to protecting information that you put up on the cloud. So we go over that basic stuff. We also go over, some of the more popular legal softwares. We go what's called an Ediscovery or electronic discovery. This is a burgeoning area. If you have a tech background at all, this could be an area where you might want to work, because it is very sort of tech heavy. You have to understand metadata and a bunch of stuff I don't understand. And then there's a software case map, which basically goes over litigation and how does a paralegal input information that's going to be used, then easily retrievable in a litigation scenario. PACER is a filing software utilized by the federal courts and some state courts. So you're going to learn how to run. You will actually go into PACER. You will run PACER. You will go into case map. You'll download it. You'll do some case map. So we're really, again, nuts, bolts skill set. We're trying to give you the experience so that you see this stuff and you're not going to be experts in any of this. No one expects you to be an expert, but you'll be exposed to it enough that you can, A, ask good questions and know how to sort of work your way around all of it, too. Same with Clio, which is basically an office management system. A lot of paralegals, we talked about billables, will also have some responsibility for maintaining billables and accounts receivable and all that kind of information, and that's the software that they're doing with that. Next module, Probate and Family Law. Again, each one 2 weeks. You're going to go over the basics of probate and the family. You're going to talk about estate planning. What are trusts? What are, when would you want to trust? When do you not? Family law is going to be, it's really, unfortunately, family law pretty much comes down to alimony, child support. They do cover a little bit on same-sex marriage and sort of what was the tension, how did that evolve? Is it vulnerable? How could it be attacked? How could, so there's sort of, we're keeping it as current as we can in that area. And then, of course, probate and wills. One of the things we talk about is we actually draft the will and we show you what the role of the executor is. Now, here's the thing. Most paralegals aren't going to be executors, right? Because you may have, if you're in a family law practice, maybe you do 50 wills in a month. You're not going to be the executor. It might be 50 people in the family or 50 friends. But every one of those executors probably hasn't done it before. And being an executor is a difficult job. It's a lot of work, a lot of minutia that has to be done. And they're going to call you up and say, I don't know how to do this. You draft in the will. So it really helps the paralegals to understand the role of the executor so you can coach those people who have been named executors in the wills where you're, that you help draft. And then we're going to do real estate law. I mean, it's pretty basic here. We're going to give closing disclosure statements. They have to be balanced. Here's the thing. Every real estate transaction, be it personal or commercial, is going to involve a closing disclosure statement. All right, it's sort of the last thing that happens, and it's what finalizes the transfer of title of property. And they're kind of they're not a bear, but you have to be very detail oriented, and it all has to balances, and it's the pluses and the minuses of all the money and all the subsets of how the money is divided up. We're going to provide you a blank closing disclosure statement. We're going to give you a hypothetical with a lot of numbers in it and fact patterns and clients. And you're going to fill out the closing disclosure form. Again, nuts, bolts, skill set. We want you to see the forms that you're going to come across so that the first time you see them in your firm, you will basically know what it is and the rough estimates of how to proceed through it. The same is going to be held with title, the different ways to hold title, how to do title researches, how to do title researches online. You're going to do all that stuff conveying property. That involves sort of what's involved when conveying property. Litigation, we're going to go through the basics from how to file a complaint, how to go through discovery, what's the paralegal doing, how does the paralegal interpret federal rules of civil procedure, and again, what is the paralegal doing during the discovery process, interrogatories, depositions? What's the paralegal doing as they go to their supervising attorney to trial? You know, what's the role, what are the tasks that paralegals do in the litigation field? And then finally, business law. You're going to talk about the different ways businesses are formed, the pros and cons. Sometimes it's going to be a corporation. Sometimes it's going to be a partnership. Why would you want a corporation over a partnership? Well, there's certain tax benefits and consequences to each. So it really does depend on each individual business person's take. Like, how do they see the business growing and what do they want from it? You're also going to go over some very basics on intellectual property, copyrights, patents, and trademarks. Very basic on the patents, because that's a really, it's a very expert-oriented area of the law. You need a specific area of expertise. If you're an engineer, yeah, that would be it pays phenomenal, but it's very exclusive. So we just want you to know what it is. We don't anticipate many of you will be going there, but definitely copyrights, and trademarks, there's a wide range of area there. Okay, I'm talking fast because I'm trying to keep it interesting and get it all in before you want to sign out. How will I become comfortable with the online platform? Again, there's a little orientation period. I think it's 2 weeks before we actually start the class, where you get to learn how do you maneuver your way through the software. I teach the first module. I work with people and sort of understanding the software. So that's, you know, how you're going to become comfortable with it. Instructions, interaction, instructors and paralegal teaching assistants are responsible for checking their emails twice a day. So if you have a question, it's generally going to be answered within 3 hours. Not 3 hours, sorry, 6 hours. So you can, again, ask your questions either through internal messages in the Blackboard system, which is basically an email, or you can ask it on Ask the Instructor. Again, we've sort of gone over that. Every module is graded, all right? So there's a grade for all 7 modules. You have to get a B- average for the entire program. A module can slip into a C, but then you're going to have to bring it up with a B+ or an A-, so that you get the overall B- average. You know, I can tell you, and there's not an overall test, it's just each module is tested. My experience with grades is that students who put the work in do well. You know, I mean, the only time we run into a little bit of trouble is if people aren't logging in. You know, you have to log in and do the work. But if you're there, if you're present, grades generally aren't going to be a problem. It's called a melt rate. We have a melt rate of 93%. That means how many students finish from how many students started. And that's high for melt rates, especially for online programs. We do grant CEUs, and it's 8.4 if that's of interest to you. This is, and I think all campus is going to send out something. This didn't work quite as well as I envisioned. Here are some of the videos that will start each one of the 7 modules, just to sort of give you a sense of what the videos look like, what we cover in a little more in depth. So I believe we're going to try to send you a follow-up where you can live click to each one of those. I don't think you can live click it on the platform that we have right now. But again, this is just an opportunity to see some different people, see what the videos look like, and have them explain what each module is that I just did. Are you going to take over this?
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I wanted to actually jump in here and talk a little bit about the affordability. Before I get into this slide, though, I just wanted to mention to our attendees, I had gotten a couple comments about some audio issues towards the beginning of that. And just as a reminder, if you came into the presentation late or if you joined early and you had some audio issues, this whole session is being recorded and you will get a copy sent out to you. So hopefully you'll be able to go back and watch any part that maybe you missed. But hopefully everybody got the audio figured out. So just want to talk real quick about the cost of the program. The total program cost is $3,995, and that does include paid access to Westlaw Next. And so basically that actually includes all of the course material. So there's no additional fees, there's no books that you have to buy or anything like that. That is the total cost for the program. We also do have a couple different options as far as funding go. So we have a payment plan that we accept, that we work with, and then we also have other options too, like loans and debit or credit card, that sort of thing. So there are different payment options available for everybody. There's no fee to apply, basically to register, so there's no additional fees, like I said, beyond that $39.95. Again, no books to buy. That's all going to be given to you through Blackboard. And then as far as specific technology or software required, you do need to have access to Microsoft Office and a reliable internet connection. Those two things are required for the program. And we really don't recommend trying to do the entire program on a tablet. It's just not optimized for that, and I don't think you'd want to type out what you have to type out on a tablet anyway. I think that'd be kind of annoying. So anyway, as far as the registration and next steps, the next class start that we have is actually March 13th. We are registering students for that session right now. The registration deadline is March 5th. So we will be taking new students up until March 5th, and then that'll be the deadline for this upcoming spring too. Again, I don't know if the links on this presentation work, but on the recorded version that you do get sent out, these links will work. So if you do end up wanting to sign up, you can go to the paralegalonline.bu.edu with the /tuition payment options, and you'll be able to register directly from our website. And if you have any questions, that's my direct line down there, that 857-366-9338. And so feel free, or you can email them in enrollment@paralegalonline.bu.edu. So thank you again, Joe. Thank you for answering questions. Well, actually, I take this back. We're going to have a few minutes of Q&A. So actually, at this point, we do have a few minutes. So if anyone has any questions for Joe, feel free to go ahead and ask in the chat window. We'd be happy to answer them for you.
While you're thinking about that or typing, I'll say one of the things I like about our live classroom, we've gone from this, which is, I believe, an Adobe Connect. I'm not even sure of that. But we've gone into a new software called Zoom, which allows you to speak and us to speak to each other, and it works really well. But right now we don't have that, so we're going to see if you write it all down.
And actually, I did want to clarify, we did get a question, is this for the online only? And yes, this information, the links and the contact info, this is for the online only program.
But I will say, whatever I'm saying is going to be also true for the blended program.
Oh, and Joe, actually, we did get a good question. So can you be accepted into this program without an undergraduate degree?
You know, you can, and here's the deal. You will be, because there's a little bit longer answer to this. I'll try to make it quick. You will be competing against people who have their undergraduate degree, so you should know that going in. So there's certain times where I think it's okay to do it without an undergraduate degree. One, if you're getting it, you know, you sort of want to do both at the same time. Two, if you've been in the field for a while and you have connections and experience, then I don't know that the undergraduate degree is going to be critical because you've already developed your network. What's going to be most difficult is getting that first job. So if you've been in the field or if you're getting your undergraduate degree, then you do not need to get your undergrad as you come into this program. That answer good? I could say a little more. Really quickly, I had to make a decision whether to make it necessary to get your undergraduate degree before or not. I was leaning to making that a necessary requirement, but then I realized that we have foreign students coming in, students who are attorneys in other countries, and getting their transcripts was a problem. And also, one of the people I mentioned, I don't do this alone. There had to be a board, and I put on the board people that I trust and know in the field, one of whom was a woman who's a teaching assistant now, and she's a paralegal that I have worked with. I mean, I have tremendous respect for her. Her work is solid and excellent, and I rely on it. And we were debating whether to make undergraduate a requirement for this program, and I was saying yes, and she was saying no. and we didn't really, you know, we just kind of shelved it. And afterwards, she came up to me, because this was at a table meeting, and there was like 6, 7 other people there. And she came to me and she said, you know, I just want you to know, I don't have my undergraduate degree. I got into the field, I got this, I got a job. And she kind of swayed me. I listened to her, I heard her, and it's like, as long as I point out that you will be competing, the majority of paralegals out there have their undergraduates. If you know that and you're good with it for reasons that are personal to you, you think you can make it work, then that's fine. That's your call.
Great, thank you. And someone else actually had asked, will students have access to the materials after the class?
No, they won't have access to the materials after the class, but that's why we make it printable. You can print each module out. Now, you're not going to get the discussion boards, and you're not going to get the video transcripts, and I don't think you get the live classroom, but the sort of solid module that's text, you can print that out, and we encourage students to print that out the first day of the module. So you will have a hardbound material afterwards. It's about, I don't know, like 80 pages per module.
Thanks, Joe. Actually, we had a question. We did have a question about the blended option. Do you know offhand when the next blended program begins?
I could try to look on my calendar, but I will probably lose it. I don't. You know, contact Holly. It's going to be it'll be March or April, I'm sure. You know, I mean, we just gave an open house for that the other day, so it's March or April. The exact date, I'm not sure. I'm going to try to look and tell you.
Okay, actually, we just looked it up. It's April 7th is the next blended start.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Questions? What are you going to want to know as soon as we hang up? Is anyone there?
I'm still here. Yes. So I don't know if anyone is just still asking questions. It doesn't look like it. But tell you what, if you aren't typing right now, but you do come up with a question at the end of this, you know, again, all of my contact info is on this, and you will receive a copy of this presentation. So. You know, with that, I do want to thank Joe. I want to thank you for presenting today and answering our questions and giving us the information about the program. And to all attendees, I hope that you found this session informative. And if you want to discuss the program further, again, my direct line, you can call me directly at 857-366-9309, or you can email me directly at jsnow@paralegalonline.bu.edu. All right. Thanks again, Joe.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
Come see you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.